Growing up as a young girl, a lot of girls have the fantasy of their first encounter with a man to be maybe like a bed of roses and stuff like that. I didn't have that. My first experience, unfortunately, my first sexual experience, I was raped. I was 16 years old. Sometimes I'm like, oh, my hand's so pretty. You know what I mean? But then I'm also like, but why did you get this? And I remind myself, "Horikana, these are my healer's hands. These are my healing hands. When I look in the mirror and I see my phoenix, sometimes, I feel sexy. Sometimes I feel magical, sometimes powerful. And those are all the things and the reasons why I wanted it. It's a multi-layered disease. It's not just, it's not like, why don't you just stop it? You can't, you really need to attack it at different levels, spiritually, mentally, and physically as well, because you do have those physical cravings.
High as fuck, tatted up, I came in like that. Streets, they want me back, but I can't live like that. Bad thing in the club, she just do it.
Yo, welcome to our second episode of Mzansi Tattoo Stories, where we uncover the beauty of body modification. I am not alone, as you know. I'm with the beautiful lady, Adija Dikata. Please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Yo, Wagwan. I'm Adija. As you know, a piercing artist and tattoo apprentice at Soweto Inc. We are on our second episode, and today we're giving you guys a full segment of my type of therapy, right? We have our guest, a family member of ours, Dudueto. Hi. Hello. Welcome.
Hello, Dudueto. Welcome to the show.
A little birdie told me it's Dudueto's birthday.
Yeah.
It's Dudueto's birthday. Happy
birthday,
Dudueto.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
We're definitely getting some cake after the show, guys. I know the right spot because I'm a cake lover. I love cake. Anything with cake, I hit it. I love it. So today, I'm going to get you cake today after the show.
Thank you very much. I look forward to eating it.
You look dapper with that t-shirt.
I think I do too.
Love it.
Bam, bam. I like
and
to
showing your
introduce me as family
tattoos
as well.
Yes.
Come on. Yes, I am. Thank you very
You're
much,
really
guys.
representing the family very well.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So Dudueto is here to share with us today her therapy story, her type of therapy. She's going to give us a rundown on basically everything with her, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're just gonna start on the my therapy story because just to fill you in, guys, what we're talking about, that with tattoos, they really help different people to sort of navigate through their life in deep dark times. Some people use it as a coping mechanism. Some people use it as a therapy form, not to go back to old habits or things that they used to do before. So on continuation of the episode that we had, we have today to actually give us more information on how she grew up and how she got to get therapy through tattoos. So let's start back when you grew up, where you grew up. Just give us a background on how you grew up.
Okay, my name is Dudueto, as you've already said, both of you. Happy to be here. Thanks for this moment, telling my tattoo stories. A little bit about me. We already know it's my birthday, so I won't go to that. I am...
How old are you turning?
41.
41
years
amazing.
Old, yes. It's,
Life begins at 40.
What? Yeah, and I'm grateful to be alive. I don't know what it should feel like to be 41, but I don't know. Like some people, this morning, someone was like, wow, you're 41. Sort of alluding to like being old, But I don't feel old. You know what I mean? Anyway, so there's
no
forever.
such thing as old.
I don't think so either. I
there's no
really
such
don't,
thing as old.
forever
younger.
young. Finer like wine.
Yeah.
And my background is I'm Botswana. Born here in Botswana back in 1982. My background extends across the globe, actually, as far as where I lived. I'm born here in Botswana. My mother is from Soroe, as is my father, but if I'm identifying with a clan or tribe, ke Mokalaka, Mama ke Mongwatu. I grew up in many countries. I was born in Botswana when I was 18 months old. We started moving around because my father's work was in the foreign service. My father was career diplomat. So at 18 months old, he packed up his family. At the time, I was the only child born. We moved to England. After United Kingdom, we moved down to Zambia. After Zambia, we moved to South Africa. After South Africa, we moved to Japan. That's where I graduated high school. After Japan, I went to college in Florida in the States, finished that, and then I made my sojourn back home, back to Botswana, back to Africa, to now start living and trying to see what it was to be Botswana, living in Botswana with a bag full of dreams. Yeah. So
Tell us about your name, Diaspora's Daughter.
That's my Instagram handle, Diaspora Daughter.
Diaspora Daughter.
Yes, I call myself that because, as I've just described, my background, I didn't grow up in just one place. I'm very much a daughter of the diaspora, and by definition, the diaspora is a place that, typically it's used to describe, somebody who's displaced or removed from their place of origin. But I am a product and a result of the diaspora within which I have grown up, not just the physical countries that I've lived in, but also the interactions that I've had with different places and people and lands. So I call myself Diaspora Daughter on Instagram. That's my handle there. When I write, that's sort of I'm a writer as well. So that's my persona. That's the worldview that I have, is one that is a culmination of my experiences around the globe and just how I look at the world. And when I write, I usually write more your lifestyle related stuff. I like to write not lifestyle like clubs and party stuff, but more tapping into history, things that teach us about our roots. I think it's important for Africans to tell African stories, and being gifted with the gift of a scribe. I think it's up to me to tell stories. So I tell stories about heritage, people of old, history, that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit of explanation about Diaspora Daughter. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell us about your upbringing after university life.
After university life, well, I graduated in 2006, a university called Lynn University in Florida, moved back home to Botswana. My academic background in college is I have a Bachelor of Arts in Communications, specializing in advertising and PR. So I came back home, when I said with a bag full of dreams. Of course, you think, okay, I'm going to start, working, get the formal environment. I struggled with that for a while, getting formal employment. You know how that goes. But one of my first job after college was as an assistant editor of one of the lifestyle magazines that's no longer printing, but it was the best that there is, or was in Botswana. It's called La Pologa magazine. Shout out to them and Shike. And also, so then after that, then I, developed myself as far as in career, try to find jobs here and there, did the publishing work as an advertiser, at La Pologa magazine as an assistant editor. After that, I had a stint, or a long stint, if you would, at the radio station, Yarna FM. I was a newsreader there for a while, and then I went into PR, worked at agency level, public relations, and then also at corporate level PR as well, the tourism organization at agency as well. It was Hotwire. All the while, always doing stuff on the side, mostly maybe freelance writing, different kind of hobbies that I like to tap into. And one of the hobbies that I always find myself tapping into, involving plants and trees and stuff like that, evolved into what is now the business that I own as well. I'm a mother. I like to say that. I'm a mom of 3. I have 2 boys and a daughter. My firstborn is 14, second is 12, and my lastborn, she's 10. So that's a little bit of what else I did after college, had some babies. I think, so then I was tapping into what the professional life turned into the entrepreneurial life now, which is an expression, which became like it evolved as an expression of who it is I am, and my own interests and gifts as well. The business that I own is called Nubian Seed, and I manufacture, or I make skincare products using indigenous botanical African ingredients. Long story short, I use plants to make skincare products. products. And it's one expression of another way in which I'm grateful to have been gifted, and that's as a herbalist has an ability to commune and converse and translate the language of Mama Earth and plants in a way that other people can not only benefit from for edifying and healing purposes, but also to understand as well. So that's a little bit of my background and who I am. Yeah.
Amazing. Jumping into the story of my therapy and involving tattoos and your healing journey, we want to dive in on the things and the challenges that you faced. When you hit those challenges, what happened in your life, and what was the lowest moment where you figured that, I'm actually going through some stuff and I can actually at some point try and, be on my healing journey. Just take us back through that time.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been I'm very much, in modern language, they call it empath. Now I have, vocabulary to describe the way that I experienced life growing up. Very much a feeler, things that, members, people would be like, you're always crying. You know what I mean? And sometimes I wonder if the tears I cried were only just mine, but that's another conversation for another day. But a depth of character that really is one that experienced things in a very heavy way. And there've been significant experiences that I think shaped and formed me, traumatic ones as well, if you would. I mean, growing up as a young girl, a lot of girls have the fantasy of their first encounter with a man to be maybe like a bed of roses and stuff like that. I didn't have that. My first experience, unfortunately, my first sexual experience, I was raped. I was 16 years old. So that was, and I'm in your asking and prompting to ask me, what it is like traumatic experiences that happened. When we spoke a little bit behind the scenes, I didn't mention that, but okay, I'm like, all right, this is something that is true and has happened and contributed to the reasons why I needed therapy growing up and stuff like that. So 16 years old, I lost my virginity by being raped by an older guy, and that was something that I carried with me for a very long time, unaware that I was carrying it. But then I find myself having found ways to cope and deal. So I was very much a candidate for alcoholism from a very young age. It seems, now using the clarity that 2020 vision provides, looking back, I see that a coping mechanism that I did apply even from as young as a teenager was drinking a lot. I partied a whole lot, when I was young, and 16 up until, and that was it happened in South Africa just before I moved to Japan. I moved to Tokyo from Pretoria. So I carried that into my next experience living into another country. It didn't define who I was and my experience, but now that I'm talking about it again and just assessing what, stage by stage. So that happened, moved. I did go for therapy, in Tokyo, over there, diagnosed with things like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD. They gave me Adderall. I think I had some antidepressants for a while. I did graduate high school, and then culminated into going to college as well. And there, of course, now being away from home, much as I was used to living in different parts of the world, I always had the security of living with my family. So now I'm in college in Florida, close to Miami. And it was very deliberate that I moved to Florida. I was tired of the cold, and the winter got really cold in Tokyo, snowed and everything. So as soon as I heard beaches, sunny, take me to Florida. So I went there for college. And even there, I graduated, fine and everything like that. But I would say my first 2 years over there, again, I think I did carry out a lot of the latent trauma from the experience that I had, before I left for Japan into that as well. So I did have a couple of...
Was this experience in Botswana?
No, in South Africa.
In South Africa?
It was in South Africa, yeah.
Oh, you stayed there? You had a family there?
Yeah. My dad lived, that was the country. I was born in Bots, and then after that we moved to UK, and then we moved to Zambia. After Zambia, that's when we moved to South Africa. So I was in South Africa from when I was in standard 3, from 19 1993 up until 1999. That's when I was in SA. Yeah, so yes, so that's the one that I'm grateful to have been in South Africa at a time when there's significant shift in history. I was there in 1994, but maybe still too young to understand the significance of that at that time. But now, of course, knowing what it meant to be a part of, to be alive at a time like that in South Africa. So that was in South Africa, yeah. Yeah, did I digress?
Yeah, and then how does that? Okay, how does it now get into where you start using substances? How did that start? Let us and fill us in there.
It's interesting. I did party a lot, drank a lot, When I went to college, I remember I had a friend, her name was Stephanie, first year freshman. I remember
Stephanie always a problem.
Are they really?
Please,
She was
Stephanie's
cool. I really
alone,
liked her. She was
man.
from Boston. And, and I remember we'd have days where we'd be like, so what are we trying out today? So it would be like maybe a shroom day or like an X day. You know what I mean? Can I say all of this?
Yeah, definitely.
All right,
anything.
So I mean,
and also tell us how it made you feel.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not a recovering addict because I didn't like drugs or alcohol. You become an addict because you enjoy the experience of that, you know what I mean? So I'm very much healed in that sense that I understand that I was attracted to them because I liked them, much as, yes, it's a, in many countries around the world, except in Botswana and others, addiction is defined as a disease, but back then I was still experimenting, I was still playing. I didn't know, you know what I mean, the impact of that. And that's the thing about drugs, you don't know until it's too late or until now it's time to get help that, oh, snap, maybe this one isn't for me, and that's for me with alcohol and with drugs. So at first I was experimenting, just playing around, cocktailing it through freshman year. And then, interesting, by the time I was in sophomore year, which is my third year of university, I toned down a whole lot, made different friends and stuff like that, shifted completely. In fact, and that's where I started having a lot of spiritual growth. I was introduced to my understanding of spirituality through Rastafari, and that is something that I was taught or introduced to a friend of mine who was one of my best friends. Her name was Ronette. She was from the Bahamas, and she pulled me away from the crowd I was hanging out with at first. She thought I was strange. I'm this African girl, she's from the Bahamas, heavy with locks and everything. I hung out with a lot of white people. I don't think it's wrong with that, but I think, living in now being overseas and stuff, when they think an African girl should just, be African, maybe I should be wearing boo-boos or something. I don't know. But, they used to say, like, why do you hang out with so many white people? I'm like, I don't know, like, they're my people, you know what I mean? Like, Rashap, So anyway, this friend, I mentioned her as part of my growth and, transitioning in life, someone who introduced me to a spirituality that helped me understand more about who I am and why I'm here and all of that, So by then I toned down a lot, I wasn't doing drugs. In fact, none of the like Coke, X, any of that I wasn't, up until I graduated. Then I moved back home in 2006 and I had a car accident that December. One of my friends passed away. I still have a scar on my leg. I mentioned moving back home and the car accident as significant experiences or things that happened, because after the car accident and in moving back home back in 2006, I moved back in September. The car accident was in December, was my car. We went out partying with some friends of mine. My boyfriend at the time was driving. I was still used to driving on the left side of the road and car and stuff like that. So I couldn't drive at night in Botswana, let alone drunk. So my then boyfriend was driving, hit what used to be Pakalani Circle, the car overturned. I lost a friend, her name was Tiamo, rest in peace. So I've got this scar, I call it my battle wound. And I think now that we're talking about tattoos and how markings and stuff like that contribute to your journey of healing, just in thinking about the way I look at how I survived that car accident, which was a fatal one, and calling it my battle wound, and then later fast forward a couple of years to then starting to mark myself with tattoos that are significant and mean something. That's, I think, a notable thing, now that we're having that discussion. But I think it's interesting that it took me coming back to Botswana, and those things happening, and maybe and also just meeting. Like I've said before, you don't know whether you're an addict until you actually meet them, and then it starts happening. And it was a long journey of self-discovery. Even that, even knowing what is and isn't for you, it takes a while in itself. So I moved in 2006 to Botswana, started hanging out with different crowds, after the accident. Once I was healed, lost a friend, and, but at the same time, also still working, life was progressing and growing. But then at some point, the two kind of clashed and didn't, come together. So the first time I went to rehab was in South Africa. I went to a place in Kempton Park. Unfortunately, my parents had the ability to be able to take me there, and understand, okay, this is what this girl is saying she's going through. Let's support her in this way. So I'm grateful for that as well. The ability to do that, But I went to rehab twice, first in 2008, and then again in 2011. And then again needed to try to get sober in 2014. So my sobriety date is June 21st, 2014. And it's actually also winter solstice. I always say that because winter solstice is the longest night, and I think it's significant that on the longest night of winter is the day that I emerged out of it, having made the decision to live freely, and it wasn't just like an moment, was a culmination of many things, like a lot of suffering, a lot of needing to understand, a lot of therapy, a lot of prayer from the parents and stuff like that, until 2014. Then I started that journey of trying to see what was wrong, what's going on with me. So now I, confidently share and say that, I'm a recovering addict, I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Do you think you were a rebellious child?
I was a
rebellious child?
Yes, I was. I don't think I was. My poor parents. I'm the firstborn, so there's also that. I always had that, hey, Studu, kanabo now, your younger siblings, you know what I mean? Think about your younger siblings. I'm like, how is this my responsibility, the birth order, But yeah, hopefully now I'm a better example of an older sibling. People still think the sister who comes after me, her name is Khorata. They still think Khorata is older than me because she's a yin to my yang, where she's very level-headed and, I'm the, that. If there's a word for that, is there a word for that? That. I'm that one,
Okay, so the first time you went to rehab, what were you checked in for?
Then I actually my problem, then I was like, okay, it was for ecstasy, crack cocaine, and alcohol. When I went the second time, it was for crack and alcohol. And when I got sober the third time, I will try it again, because
it's an up and down journey.
Hey,
it's hard.
It really is, stopping and staying stopped, it really is, because it's a multi-layered disease. It's not just, it's not like, why don't you just stop it, you can't, you really need to attack it at different levels, spiritually, mentally, and physically as well, because you do have those physical cravings and stuff like that. So yeah, so by the time I was again down and out, I was a fully blown crack addict and alcoholic. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, what about your kids? How did they take it?
Thank you for asking that. They are, like I've just said, my firstborn is 14 and I'm 9 years sober. So, part of my story of being a mother, it's sadly, it does include that, and the sad thing about addiction is that it steals you from, the people who love you and who you're supposed to be there for, but you can't get sober for them. You know what I mean? Like, much as I was a mom and stuff like that, people will say, but what about the kids? I'm grateful for my mother. My mom picked up the dust for, and looked after my kids for a while. My kids still call my mom Mama, and at first, for a long time, they used to call me Dudu. I didn't mind, Now they call me Mommy, but, Mama was Mama and I was Dudu, and now I'm Mommy because I'm more present in their lives. But, I've had to make what are called living amends to the kids. In fact, when I found out I was pregnant with my firstborn, Nisi. I was in rehab, actually. And when you first check in, they do a whole physical exam and stuff like that. And then, like, lo and behold, I was
surprise.
pregnant, girl. I was like, what? But I was like, I was like, if this isn't but a sign, like, I'm in rehab, like, God has given me the gift of life, you know what I mean? Like, surely the doctor was like, no, this is very bad. You must terminate, you know what I mean? Because of, he was like leading up to coming to rehab. Obviously, you're like compounded with chemicals and all kind of shit in your system. You can't be having a child, But I've believed firmly that he is a gift from God. I was like, nope, I'm keeping this one. I'm keeping him, and I did, I was sober up until his 7th month, throughout the pregnancy, and I relapsed when he was 7 months old, I can't tell you why or what happened or anything specifically, but they do say a relapse first starts in the mind before you actually pick up. So there was obviously things I wasn't doing okay, in trying to recover and being a new mom and stuff like that. They know about it. We talk about it, sometimes, and because I feel like I don't have, how some parents have the opportunity of saying like, don't do that, don't do this, but then we don't know what our parents got up to. You'll maybe hear from that cool uncle at a party who's doing, hey, ska one of your mom and say, like, we used to get down with her, go, Nathan, For me, my kids have seen me at my worst, They really have, much as I might not have like clear memory of it. So we do talk about it. I have one memory, sometime, I think it was last year, my boys walked me to an AA meeting, the AA rooms in Botswana that I attend are when I was attending, I haven't been for a while, but it's right around the corner from my house. So on this day, I was like, let me just go for a meeting, and the boys were like, Mommy, like, we'll walk you because they think they can protect me from all kind of things. They'll grow older, and I trust that they will one day. And they walked me there, and I was like, wow. Like, this is so significant. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've come full circle, These kids are walking me to a meeting that they know has contributed to the healing that has made me able to be present with them, as a mother in their lives. I do mothering very unconventionally. I do it to the best of my ability. I'm sure I've, failing in some areas, but what I try to do a lot is just be very open and honest, and in sharing with them my addiction story, much of they have seen it, it's so that, because sometimes I have heard it's passed down genetically and stuff like that, and I hope and pray, you know what I mean, like they don't, but if it does happen, by God, if they can at least just know that they can get help, that it's possible to change, you know what I mean? So they sometimes tell stories, like when we do sit and talk about it, they'll be like, Kesh, and I'll ask them, you're like, what do you remember? And then the older one will have some memories. Mimi, Alio, the last born, she doesn't, she was a baby. And then I was really trying by this time to be like, Kesh, dude, you just fucking get your shit together, But I think they see me for who and what I am. Yeah.
That makes sense. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Would you say that throughout your journey in and out of the rehabs, there's been some type of neglect and misunderstanding within the household, like between? I mean, like, I'm asking from more of a extended family point of view, because I know that African parents are very protective of their grandchildren. That's one thing I know very much, right? So I want to understand, like, was there ever like an altercation? Could be verbal, or it could be like, nah, don't take my kids away from me or something. Like, was there any like type of traumatic experience that could have contributed to your children experiencing all of this with you and without you?
Certainly. More than one I can describe. I mean, I have one of my sister cousins, her name is Dipuka. She wanted to adopt my second born. I was somewhere in the streets when this discussion was being held. Her second born and my second born were born around the same time. But in recovery, she later told me, we're going to adopt Kawusi, her and her now ex-husband, because, they're just, I wasn't there. I mean, how am I going to be a mom when I'm, chasing my next high? That's how it was, The blowouts were many, with my mother, and then in some instances, they were not passive aggressive, but like the blowouts that are not spoken. You know, like I lost a lot of relationships with people who are very important to me. You know, my sister who comes after me, for example, you know, I almost missed her wedding. You know what I mean? In Swaziland, you know what I'm saying? I remember just in the nick of time. I don't know where I lost my passport. I know I wasn't even I wasn't in her bridal party, you know, and I'm sure she would have wanted, but I was a hot mess. You couldn't have me around like anywhere, you know, but you couldn't be sure what was going to happen with me. So you couldn't plan anything certain with me in it, you know. So the blowouts were many. There's one, I have a scar over here, under here, of breaking a window, trying to get home in the house when mama was like, look, we just stay wherever you are coming from, you know. And I wasn't trying to break the window. I was knocking on the window too much. And that's actually a shared memory that my firstborn does actually remember, in trying to open the door. You know, and trying to open the door for my mom. I mean, for me, I'm trying to get my mom to open the door for me, banging too hard on the window, the thingy cracked. My son saw all of that, you know what I mean? So yes,
Yeah.
there were many blowouts.
Okay, when they say that you actually make a conscious decision every single time you decide to go clean. And sometimes your relapse may or may not be triggered by something. Would you say your relapses were triggered by something? Or would you just say it was probably a craving that led you back there?
So thank you for your question. They say that it's different. I mean, okay, the act, good at picking up of the crack, you know, or the drink after a time when I've said I'm not doing this anymore, having gone to rehab or 12 steps and stuff like that. It starts first in the mind. And one of the people who I saw who helped me come to the realization, it was in therapy, helped me come to the first realization that I'm an addict, or was an addict, an active addict, was Ma Ntombi Sitshwaelo, who I went for life coaching and therapy with. Auntie Ntombi is what I call her, but Ntombi Sitshwaelo is one of the therapy rooms, one of the many therapy rooms I went to, you know, and there we spoke about making the decision. You know what I'm saying? You make the decision first, and that's the hardest thing to do when you get clean, you know, because, you know, and the decision comes first before even putting down the drug or the drink or whatever it is that, you know, that is your ball and chain. And I know this is true because and when you're an addict, anything can be a triggering reason. I can be too excited and it's like, okay, oops, you know, like I forgot and had a drink, you know, or I'm so sad, you know, and then I must do something to thingy. One thing that made me see where I had made this decision, much as by the time this had happened, I was already like 8 years sober. In 2022, my best friend committed suicide. And if that didn't take me to relapse, then could have nothing else, you know. I mean, I don't know, but I have, in experiencing the melancholy that I was going through then, like I remember at one thought came to mind, like, this is why I drank, this is why I used, you know what I'm saying? Because the feeling was just too much, you know. But at the same time, I was like, I can't do that though, you know what I mean? Like, but I can't go there though, you know. So yes, you can have a triggering incident and then, you know, a thingy. But if you've made the decision truly that, look, this is not what I'm doing anymore, it's no longer my tool, then it'll get you, that decision will carry you through even the toughest times, such that you don't have to drink. I don't have to use, you know. And in mourning, my friend, you know, and cousin, you know, like I knowing and seeing what I didn't have to use then I don't think I ever will again. Yeah.
That's an awesome decision, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm hella proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, my last question for you, Dudu. You actually mentioned something that piqued my interest.
Okay.
You had a prescription for ADHD, and you helped on your antidepressants. Personally, I also have my own story with antidepressants.
Okay.
Right, but I wanted to understand, like, you mentioned that you weren't taking your meds prop. I think people on antidepressants, we all suffer from that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me your experience with the antidepressants. Were they mood stabilizers, numbers? What happened? What made you decide that, nah, this isn't for me?
Hey, I mean, it wasn't the smartest thing. Obviously, it was prescribed for a reason, and I was prescribed antidepressants and Adderall for my ADHD. I shouldn't call it my ADHD, for the ADHD. Because I think, the hyperactivity is the spice of who I am, I think so. And I hated it. I'm sorry, just to digress a little bit. My sister, on days when I wasn't taking my meds, she could tell. She'd be like, because Horara was like, she'd be like, you haven't taken your meds today. And I didn't like them for that reason, because I was just like, I didn't even recognize who I was, like feeling myself, you know what I mean, And then, I mean, like for the first couple of months of my being prescribed, I was still living at home in college, in Tokyo. And then the prescription was carried over to when I went to college freshman year. So in addition to my like cocktailing with Stephanie, for example, there was little room also for being sure where I'm scheduled with taking my meds. I remember I have a friend, his name is Cameron. We're still friends now. He's from New York. He lives in Laos. He was prescribed Ritalin. And then we used to like interchange, ADD and ADHD pills. I was just doing it all wrong. It wasn't even like a conscious decision. I think it was very irresponsible looking back now, I'm fortunate that my type of depression wasn't one that I guess now, needed prolonged, medical use. And I know that there are those who suffer from it in a way that you need to be on medication for a prolonged period of time. I'm grateful that, I've been able to, my life is manageable even without the medication, and I think I'm okay now for it. But this is not me advising anybody who's been prescribed by a professional to take mental health pills, not to take them. I don't think it was the smartest thing at all. I mean, even just my desire, and I liked Ritalin better, just to say why, and talking back to being an addict or whatever, because the feeling of it felt like being on cocaine, and he liked the Adderall, which I was prescribed because it made him feel like he was on ecstasy. So we switched, had crushed the Ritalin, you know what I mean? Like it was just a mess. So I won't recommend that to anybody, but that is part of my story and my journey. Today and now in the other therapy rooms and, places I've gone for professional mental health, I haven't been diagnosed in a way that I need to be medicated. Mine has been such that I've needed to change my life or, apply things in my life that make me feel like more of who I am, and, just make me feel and understand who I am more of. Yeah. And I think I try to do that on a day-to-day. Like I'm that person who just needs to, like I wake up at 4 a.m, I meditate, and then I pray, do a little something, then I go to the gym, I go to my garden. Like there's things that like I need to fill myself up in order for me to feel, just balanced. But it was a whole journey, in being able to understand that about myself. So you need to give yourself the time to get to know yourself as well and what it is that you need, in order to feel more like who you are. Yeah.
And then the therapy jumps, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people that actually therapy hops like no one's business. I therapy hop like no one's business. I know a lot of therapy rooms, a lot of psychiatrists and psychology rooms. And for me personally, it's because I used to run from my problems. Every single time it was time to address this particular problem, I was like, okay, sharp, sure. It was nice seeing you, but I gotta go.
Is that the time?
Would you look at that?
What?
It's about, you get me? So I want to understand, like, the therapy hopping. Was it because of the same reason, or was it because it got to a point where you're like, I don't know, why the therapy hopping?
Honestly, sometimes it was also a way of trying to because you get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I use okay, I want to go to therapy as to avoid the homangwa or the whatever. Truly, it was a manipulative tactic as well. Sometimes the therapy helping, no, I'm going through, mama, please, would you guys pay for me to go for Netane? I promise after this, I just need. So some of it was that avoidance, and also just not really truly being, just having made the decision, to really go and get help and stick to getting help. The reasons for wanting to go to the room weren't always about getting help as much as it was about distracting people from too much attention on me. Just let me do what I need to do. When I just know what I'm going to therapy, whatever happens on Friday night is my issue, But so some of it was that. In some other instances, like when, moving from one country to another, different resources available in that sense. So yeah, I would say it's twofold. Sometimes just because of having moved, or trying to address different things, and in other instances, particularly when I was still in the mix of things, it was just another thing, just to say, hey, I need to go and get help. I remember when I wanted to go to rehab the second time, my sister actually paid for my second rehab, because my mom was like, by the time, I could have bought cars with the amount of money we spent on rehab for you. The second time, I really did want to go. I was at that place, but she was done. You know what I mean? She was looking after my children. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not paying for anything. But yeah, so sometimes it was really just to avoid getting in more trouble, or to make it seem as though I'm getting my shit together.
Wow, what a story. Linking to my therapy story, diving in the tattoos from how you sort of change into seeing tattoos as a healing mechanism. Do you want to fill us in on your tattoos?
Yes,
And,
I'd love to share my tattoo
Yeah.
stories. So the first tattoo I got is on my lower back. Unfortunately, that one that they call the tramp stamps, that I got that one when I left Japan, and that one is the kanji. Kanji is the symbols for in writing in Japanese for sun or sunshine. It's taiyo. And I got that on my back, not because I wanted a tramp stamp, but because I wanted to shine a light, or have rays shining in the, like, to leave a light on the path that I'm leaving behind me. That was the significance of that tattoo for me then, And then my next tattoo, many years later, was when I met my fam bam, my ink fam. Whoop, whoop.
She's talking about us.
Yes, I am. Definitely was my I call her my phoenix, because, that's the next tattoo that I got. I have a phoenix that's quite a large one that goes all the way on the side of my body. And that was... I have it there as an expression and to remind me of who I am. It's my spirit animal. I know it's a metaphysical. Does it even exist in some people's worlds? I don't know. But in mine, it's very real. And I believe, like, on full moons, I morph into the phoenix, and I carry it with me. It's very much a reminder of who I am, on a healing journey, whether it's life, and usually healing journeys are lifelong, but to varying degrees. I think it must start with knowing who you are, So at a metaphysical and spiritual level, I know that I am not... I don't turn to ashes and fire, but rather I am born and resurrected in it. And that's why I have the phoenix, Other tattoos I have the Virgo Gant, my star sign, that again for fun, but also just another reminder of, like, who I am. And then I have these ones on my hands because, in the work that I do, with making my products and just in all that I do, I always start with a prayer or a mantra, because I believe that much of the way in which I'm gifted is done through my hands. So I say, blessed are the works of my hands, and the title, and so this is one product from my whoop whoop, shout out Nubian Seed.
Shout out Nubian
Nubian
Seed.
seed.
So so this is one of the handmade products, So before I make anything, I'll say that blessed are the works of my hands, And one is a decorative, just a decorative one. I want to decorate my wands, if you would, And then the flower on my right hand, or the tree, or like this, it's a wildflower actually, like in what it exactly is. But again, like earlier in the conversation, I spoke about understanding that I have an ability with plants and gifts as a gift in way of transmuting that language, And some expressions I'd call myself like a plant shaman, and others I would say a herbalist, in others healer, But this was a reminder of that,
So you talk to plants.
I do, very much so. Yes, we have full-on conversations.
There's
we hug
people that
trees.
don't know this.
You
Do you
know-
want to share a little bit of insight on it?
Someone told me that you're actually supposed to talk to your plants in order for them to grow.
They are
Yeah,
living
true,
things.
true,
They are
true.
living
That-
things.
that I've heard.
They are living things. There's an experiment that one of my soul sisters has told me about, where I don't know where she came across it, but one plant people spoke to like very ugly words, and then the other plant was spoken to lovingly. Guess what? The one that didn't get love didn't thrive as much as the other one. So it's a real thing. And then my last tattoo is on my. I got it as a gift on my last sobriety anniversary. It's again, like much of the Virgo Gan stuff, but it was gifted as a sword. It was gifted on my 8th year anniversary, and it was, to slay, but not in a painful way, because it's got like a wheat sheath and my Virgo Gan. So that's what they all mean. So in many ways they are reminders of who I am. Pockets of joy as well, and just decorating the temple that is my body.
So, oh no, you can go ahead.
My bad. Okay, so would you say during your tattoo journey, right? Because it's also a journey.
Yeah.
Yes,
tattoo
it is.
journey. So would you say that during your tattoo journey, you have achieved most or some of your goals? You've accomplished some sort of inner peace, happiness? Like, what was the whole experience like through this journey? Because it's more than just getting tattoos and more than just healing. It's also the sense of peace you find within yourself.
Certainly. And the decision to mark yourself permanently with something like a tattoo isn't one that I take lightly. I know sometimes it's about, what the feeling physically is, but very much what, why I got tattoos or why I like them. And I'm still to get more. I'm not done.
Well, right.
And I'll share like
You're never done.
I don't. I'll share with you what maybe 2 of the next ones might be. Oh, I plan to be. I stay sending me some pictures like, okay, how much will this be? Anyway, yes, to answer you, without going on and on and on, I do feel I have achieved, that the feeling that I want to feel in having them. And it doesn't just happen when the ink is done. It's repeated. Sometimes I'm like, oh, my hand's so pretty. You know what I mean? But then I'm also like, but why did you get this? And I remind myself, these are my healer's hands. These are my healing hands. When I look in the mirror and I see my phoenix, sometimes, I feel sexy. Sometimes I feel magical, sometimes powerful. And those are all the things and the reasons why I wanted it, when my sword pops up in the mirror, or I come across it, I'm reminded, I am Phoenix rising, and I'm powerful, I'm strong, and I can slay things I can slay monsters.
It goes back to what I was saying on the first episode about having tattoos and confidence, how it really boosts your confidence when you're looking at the mirror and you think, you know what, I fucking look good. I don't care who says what. I'm fucking hot.
Exactly.
So can you say that it really boosts your confidence? And,
certainly. I really do. It boosts my confidence. It makes me, and I like them because they also, because they further define my expression of myself in my unique identity. There's no one else who has, maybe somebody else has a flower on their hand, but not the reason why I have it, or the combination of the variety that I do have them, The next tattoo I want to get, or two of the next tattoos I want to get are moon phases. The reason why I want to get moon phases, I don't know where yet, but the reason why I want to get moon phases is because, as a reminder, the moon reminds us, me anyway, all the time, no matter whether you're like in your fully blown expression or just like a slither of yourself, you still are. The moon is still the moon, whether it's a crescent moon or full moon or new moon where there's none, Similarly, I would like to be reminded by that tattoo, whether I'm feeling, big and bright like the full moon, or like on a day where there's not even a moon or where I can't even see where I am, I still am to do it, and then I've been thinking about getting one to commemorate, or, to remind me about my friend who committed suicide. I'm not sure yet, My kids want me to get tattoos of their names. I've told them, guys, I don't know. And then my daughter says, yeah, but you're not going to break up with us. I thought that was really funny. And it was really smart, It was very smart of her, really, and I was like, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know. But definitely moon phases I've been daydreaming about for a very long time as the next one that I want. And that's the reason why. And I imagine that once I get that, the feeling that I will have with it all the time will be that, okay, no matter what phase you're in, you're still Dudu.
Beautiful story, guys. It tells a lot about tattoos, that you can actually, heal. You might be going through a lot, but tattoos serve different to different people. It has different meanings to different people. So as we have Tudu explaining and sharing her story, we also want to know, what is your story? What have you gone through in terms of your recovering journey? And, how have, tattoos or body modification helped you? Reach out to us and hit us up. In short, before we close, Tudu, please give us an idea what you do in your business, and just, tell us more about your business.
With pleasure. I'm a co-founder of a company called Nubian Seed. And Nubian Seed, I make skincare products or personal care products using indigenous, botanical, and other bio-derived ingredients. So I only have one sample of my product today, which is a lip balm that's called Moretologa Lip Pot. And it's a quintessential example of what Nubian Seed is, in the sense that it's a combination of different types of natural ingredients to make something healing. The key ingredient in this one is Zemenia, or Moretologa, which is a tree indigenous to Botswana and other parts of Southern Africa, but that's why I was tapping into that, to use it. Other products in the range, again, things like salt scrubs, using salt from the Mahadi pans, shea butter from West Africa, typically Ghana, that's where I source from. So what Nubian Seed really wants to do, or does, as, yes, of course, at a fundamental level, it's skincare products, personal care, so that your skin glows and all the rest. But it's also a way in which I try to get people to connect to nature, connect to earth through utilizing skincare products that are derived only and fully from plants, from plants and other bio-derived materials. That is what I do on a day-to-day. It's my primary source of what keeps me busy on a day-to-day, and another expression of it has evolved as an expression of, who I am. And yeah, it's something that I love. They say that life should be about doing the work that makes life sweet. And Nubian Seed is definitely that for me.
Amazing,
Awesome.
amazing.
So where do we get your products?
Yeah.
Like, you got me all the way interested. Where do I
You took the
find,
question right on my
where do
head.
I find the product?
Okay, so far we operate as a virtual store. So we sell direct to consumer. We've got our WhatsApp line for orders and stuff like that through our social media. But in about 2 weeks, we will be fully launching our e-commerce site. That'll be at www.nubianc.co.bw. So in the interim, you could follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. I'll give you my WhatsApp number as well, so that when the big launch of the website does happen, you're able to get it. But so far, it is a bit, shall I say, old school, so pre-website. But that's where we are. Deliveries or pickups of orders. That's really where you do get the products for now.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Guys, we'll put some links down below of her business where you can find the products. Look, it's all love from this side, guys. Adios, amigos. From me and Adija, we are out.
Okay, that's a wrap from today's episode. If you have a story to share with us, please send your story to mts@sowetoinc.com, right? Yeah. That's mts@sowetoinc.com. Share your story with us, and who knows, maybe you'll be right here.
It's kind of cool here.
Yeah, it's a safe space. You're home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you so
welcome.
much. Thank you for being
wrap.
with us on the show. It's all love from the side.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Our doors are always open. We look forward to seeing you at the Tattoos Parlor.
I'll be back.
Soweto Inc. is home.
I'll be back.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a wrap.